Yeah, hey, drop. Yeah, hey, drop. Yeah, hey, drop.
Every player on the ice has a 10-minute misconduct, among other penalties.
I have never.
Conduct. We got Sam joining us tonight, my great buddy, and Nick Gullo. We've got from the Peedee IceCats. How are you tonight?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys. Pretty excited to do this.
I still pronounced your last name wrong, didn't I? It's Gullo. So sorry.
That's all right. Used to it my whole career, so.
So guys, it's funny. I actually asked ahead of time, and I still messed it up. So that's my bad. But anyway, how are things going for Peedee this season?
Awesome. It's been pretty exciting to start. Obviously, we've had some success off the start here, and I know there's pretty high expectations for this group. Everything has lived up to that so far. Everything from our on-ice performance to our off-ice. Obviously, a tough weekend with Columbus, and you want to right that ship. But we got Carolina this week, so excited. Good week of practice here, and then big weekend here, and hopefully getting 6 points out of it.
I hope so. I think collectively the Thunderbirds are one of the most disliked teams.
Yeah, they're not fun to play against, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you guys have a split series with them this weekend, right? One at home and one away?
Yeah, our travel we mostly play Blue Ridge, Athens, Columbus, and Carolina, so our travel's not too bad. So a lot of the weekends are typically splits. I know sometimes we do like the 2 away or 2 home or whatever it may be, but especially with Carolina only being about 2.5 hours north, it's like we do a lot of splits with them, which isn't too bad. So you're not really dealing with a lot of those, tough road trips and stuff like that, and quick 2-hour bus ride, which, as you guys know, in this league, that's nothing. So
yeah,
it's kind of nice. It's a nice change from, I've played, in the north most of my career. So having those long road trips, it's kind of a bit of a fresh scene and fresh change.
Now, with the split season, would you rather do the home game first and then go away, or would you rather do the away game and then home?
I don't know. I've thought about that. Obviously, it's nice. I guess I have mixed emotions on that. It's nice to have the first home game because you want to steal the first one, especially in a home and home, right? And kind of have that momentum going in the second one. And then plus you get to have a night usually at home in your own bed, and you don't have to worry about, extra hours on the bus and stuff like that. So I guess there's advantages of both, because then, after a big win or a tough loss, you don't really want to spend it on a bus. But I think if I had to choose, I'd rather at home Friday, away Saturday, just so you get minimal bus time prior to the game as possible.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think bus legs is a real thing, especially when you have long distance travel involved. So, with Carolina coming up, what kind of things do you think that they excel at, or that you guys have maybe focused on this week preparing?
Yeah, so now that we've seen them a handful of times, they're very good at transitionally. So they're able to, gain speed. They have a lot of undersized quick forwards as well, that transition the puck really well, like a Zach White, obviously, a Gus Ford and players like that nature. So being able to kind of bog up in the middle and not let them gain speed through the neutral zone, is going to be big for our club here. They've also, and obviously everybody watches film on everybody, right? So they've done a pretty good job of, conversely doing that to us and kind of clogging up the middle of the ice. So I think staying out of those areas and, working the perimeter a little bit to get behind their D where, then our forwards can do their thing down low, I think is we're going to find a lot of success. But either way, you have two good teams. It's going to be, good games every single time, whether it's, here in Florence or up there in Winston, every time we play them.
Man, the small forwards. You mentioned small forwards. You weren't too tall yourself.
Haven't noticed. Am I not? Never noticed.
No. I mean, I've noticed a lot of the more recent players that have been kind of rising are
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times a little bit on the shorter side. So I mean, do you think that gives you a slight advantage, or?
I think it's the evolution of the game. I mean, you look at all levels from youth to junior college, any level of pro, the game's so fast and skilled now. Whereas when I was growing up a kid, right, you had these mutant meatheads that it was a heavy game. And I don't mean that the game isn't tough and there's not, big, strong guys anymore, but it's so skilled and so fast that I think it's not that the bigger, heavier players can't, but I think it's allowing, smaller, quicker players to have success as well. So, it's been something that I've personally dealt with since I was 13 years old playing, AAA travel hockey, always being an undersized guy. And, I've learned to use it as an advantage, not a disadvantage. And of course, right, it would be nice to be, your 6'4s, 225s, but that's not the cards or the hands that I was dealt. And I could, sit and whine about it, but, I've carved out a pretty decent career for myself. And I think I found little, niches that have helped my game. And like I said, use it as an advantage versus a disadvantage. So anybody, if they're, a younger kid who's, just starting hockey or a younger player in whatever college, junior, pro level, and they're starting out, don't look at it as a negative, because you can find a lot of success and do things that honestly a lot of other players can't, even though there may be some struggles along the way as well.
I think that's an excellent point. There is a player, well, it was here in El Paso not too long ago. He was on the much shorter side, and man, the wheels on this kid, he could skate, he was fast, he was like able to get the puck in a way that some of those bigger guys can't. So
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree with you. I think it's cool that you found like the positive and, learned not a different way to play hockey, but you got a little bit of an advantage in some ways that other players don't. Um, so with that being said, I was looking at your roster and I was like completely shocked. And correct me if I'm wrong, but is like the majority of your team all lefties?
Yes, we have a
I
very lefty heavy team.
I have never in
Very.
my life. I was like wondering, I was like, is this a typo? I think both your goalies too. I was like, wow, this is so can you tell me the advantages of having like a majority lefty team?
So, I mean, just to, I guess, preface this a little bit, I remember growing up, and I'm from Western New York. I'm from Rochester, and so a bit of a heavy market. And every stick you would find in like a pro shop was a righty. And I was kind of the anomaly being a lefty at the time. Not too much, but there was majority of righties. For whatever reason now, getting into, I coach at home during the summers as well. And a lot of the kids I work with, or a lot of the kids I see playing against, are all lefties now. So now the righties have become an anomaly. But to your point, what advantage or disadvantage that has, I guess, when you're going in on like a 3-on-2 or a 2-on-1, and who you're with, and I guess, where their forehand's going to be, because we have predominantly lefties, instead of, taking that extra second to, look over your shoulder and check, it's kind of nice to already know where the
Yeah.
stick placement of that player might be. Or even if it's something as simple as like, a little center bump out of the D zone, where their forehand's probably going to be. And even if it's that split second, it can help a clean exit, or it can help a clean zone entry, or a clean low to high in the offensive zone. So, I mean, that's advantages that way. But I mean, that's our job as professional players, right? We got to know our teammates, know their hands, know where they are. But definitely takes one less brain cell to work with that, which is nice. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that when I watch this weekend. It's just something I didn't know before. So,
Yeah, I don't know if it's because, maybe our star players in the NHL now are predominantly lefty. So all the kids growing up over this last like 10 to 15 years want to be. I don't know if it's that, but then you look at somebody like, Ovechkin, and he's a righty. And so, but I'm not sure what the reason behind that is.
Interesting.
And then I actually been asked this question, and I gave my own 2 cents, but I know it's kind of different depending on where you're at and stuff and how you play. Can you kind of explain the difference between righty and lefty when it comes to the stick?
Yeah, so you have a curve on each stick, and if it has like a traditional C, like the letter C, um, that would be more of like a lefty. So your left hand would be lower on the stick, and your right hand would be higher on the stick. If you're a righty, you would be more like a backward C, and you'd have your right hand lower on the stick, and your top hand would be your left hand on the stick. And sometimes that might confuse people, and I might be confusing people explaining this, but the best way to think about it, if you're a lefty, you get all of your power from your left hand. So when you push down on your stick and create that torque or create that flex, whichever hand that uses or whichever hand is doing that, that'll be the telltale sign of what hand you are. And then obviously each stick has a forehand and a backhand as well.
So is it possible to be a right-handed person normally that has a stronger left dominant hand when they play?
Yeah, so something we commonly see is, especially in hockey players of all levels, like they'll shoot a puck lefty, but they'll golf righty, which is weird because you have that anti-rotation or that rotation of your upper body, and if you shoot a puck your whole life lefty, right, it's going to be natural for you to turn that way. So you'd think golf would be natural too, but for whatever reason, sometimes people play hockey lefty, golf righty, so they're switching sides. I don't know. I don't know if you're like your activities of daily living, like eating, brushing your teeth, writing, if you're lefty or righty, plays a factor in terms of what hand you're going to be in sports or in hockey. I don't know that. But I know there has to be some sort of correlation, whether it's what you do, like I said, normal activities during the day, that you're dominant, or it's more convenient, or just natural to use a hand. There may be some correlation there. But I mean, I'm a lefty and I'm right-handed dominant, so there you go.
We have some questions that we usually ask every week. I might have to add this to our list, for like the next like month or two, just to see if there's some kind of trending answer or not.
Right.
But
I think we lost you. Could you say that last thing again? Sorry.
yeah, no, I was saying that you might be surprised by some of the answers, but I think it would be a good one to add for sure.
Yeah, I like that.
Because if I remember right, at one point I had asked another hockey player, I forgot who it was, but they stated that they take their dominant hand and they like it up high on the stick versus low on the stick.
Okay,
And if
interesting.
I remember right, they're right hand dominant, but they keep their left hand up there on. I'm on reverse, but they keep their left hand higher on the stick, better control type deal.
I think a good way to think of it too is if I'm right hand dominant and I'm a lefty shooter, my top hand is going to be my right hand. And that's what's going to be on my stick at all the times, because you don't always skate with two hands on your stick, right? Sometimes you got that one free hand. So it's as backwards as this may sound, a lefty might be generally right-handed dominant because that's the hand that's going to be on the top of the stick at all times, whereas the left hand can come on and off even though that's your power hand. I know that probably confused a lot of people saying that, but to us hockey people, it makes sense. So I apologize to the general public there, but I'm not sure. I think that's a good one to add to the weekly book there and see what a couple of the other players say.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Definitely for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So We have some questions in the comments, but before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our third host, Erin. She's not feeling well tonight, and so she wasn't able to make it. But we miss you, girl. I know you're watching, so hey, and of course, hey to my mom. So there's a question in the comments that said it's from Ander Azareth. I hope I said that correctly. What team is your favorite team to play against?
Um, so you could look at it two ways, right? You could like the the easy games. Not theirs is an easy game, but I always love playing Athens. They're such a heavy, fast team, and it's such a competitive atmosphere every time you play them. And sure, you might run into a lot of scrums after the whistle, or a lot of guys you might be like, man, I can't stand playing against that guy. But if you don't live for the competition, why do you play, right? So if you can't get up for those big games, and obviously they have a pretty good track record of these last couple of years being in the league, and that's always a team you kind of notice when you have to play them. And we're going to play them a lot this year, right? So we're going to get familiar with them. And being, from the north, in the North Conference mostly, I've never gotten to play in Athens, so I'm pretty excited to, make my way down there and see that rink, because I've heard it's state of the art. So I would say them for sure. And then any rivalry. So like this year especially, we're going to see, like I said, Carolina a lot, right? I think that's going to be a fun one. You love to hate your rival, right? And like I said, that's why you play. So playing against them and taking friendships out of it, because it's such a small hockey world, hockey community is so small, right? Everybody on any team, it doesn't
Yes.
matter, right? So you have friends on all the teams, or former teammates or future teammates. And but games like that, games that are going to be tight one goal games, I think that they could go either way, and you hope you're on the winning side 75% of that time. And I think those are two of the biggest ones that I look forward to every time I see those on the calendar.
Hmm.
It's a good question.
Do you have a favorite barn you've played in?
It might be biased because I'm from New York. Bingo's fun to play in. Bingo's a really fun barn to play in just because it's so loud. And I mean, going back to that, obviously I've been on some tough losses against them, as many teams have. But going and playing there against a good competition in an arena that's got 45 to 5,000 screaming fans each night is, how can you hate that, right? That's why we do what we do. So it's pretty entertaining and it's fun. And I was actually in the game last year where there was the goalie fight in Binghamton. And that was pretty cool. I was on Danville at the time. So I remember there was like a line scrum, and everybody's jawing at each other, and I think collectively all 10 players stopped and were like, whoa, look at center ice. And the two goalies were going at it, and
I'm
it was
out.
like kind of crazy. We're like, hold on, wait a second.
What
But
kind of
yeah, that place was electric when that happened. So that building is always fun to go to, even though it's going to be an absolute grind playing against them.
Yeah, I wish Erin was here tonight. She's actually a bingo fan, so I know that
Yeah.
she's loving this.
Hmm.
Um, so with all the added new teams and like
Hmm.
the divisions kind of changing, would you have a prediction for maybe going to the finals against each other this season?
I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't say the Peedee IceCats for sure, right? There you
For
go.
sure, for sure.
I think, and until somebody shows that they can knock off Bingo, you got to give them credit, right? Until somebody
Yeah,
shows that they can take them on. And you hear all the time, well, they're not as good as they used to be. They're not the same. Well, it teaches a lot to teach how to winning, right? It takes a lot to teach how to win, and these guys know how to win. Whatever you say, until somebody, you know, proves or shows otherwise that they can knock them off, how can you not? How can you, speak against the champs, right? So. I think they're definitely the favorite. Obviously, Port's got a good team, a heavy team, that'll give them a good run for their money up there. And um, but like I said, yeah, PD Bingo, that sounds pretty nice. So nice little homecoming for me too. Playing, getting some games in New York in a championship would be fun. Family, friends can come see it. So
yeah. And it would be nice to stop seeing Carolina losing to them because,
yeah,
we never want Carolina in the finals, even though we love you Carolina fans.
no, it'd be good for the league, right? Something different. So
Yeah,
and
for
a first
sure.
year org would be awesome too. So
Yes, it would. That's a statement.
hmm And obviously, Athens came out strong last year as a first year org, but as you guys are aware, some of these first year orgs, no fault of their own, it's tough to start, right? And sometimes they go through a bit of struggles. And it's nice when you can have a first year org be able to jump out of the gate. Like ourselves here in Florence, and Athens did a great job last year. Topeka's buzzing around. So
They
um,
are.
things
They're
like
my dark
that.
horse pick this year. Their roster's pretty
Yeah.
stacked.
They remind me a lot of Port. They play a heavy game, like just a heavy physical man's game that might stack up well against a team like Bingo.
For sure.
hmm
Seen you've played in the FHL, FPHL, and the SPHL.
hmm
With the SPHL, have you had a favorite team you've played up there?
So I played with a couple different teams up there. Been fortunate to, get some call ups and stuff at that level. And I think, I last year I got the chance to play with Peoria, and obviously, they're a pretty dominant team at that level. They've been for the last couple of years. Every time I play against them, it's the most miserable thing to play, right? They're so good. They're just so mean to play against every night. It's going to be a grind, and they don't care if you're my size or you're like 6'8". They're running you over after every single whistle. It's truthfully just a grind. And I was fortunate enough to get a call there last year, and I loved my time there. It was awesome. Jean-Guy Trudeau is the coach there, and everyone said how crazy and nuts he is and how much of a hardo he is, and they're correct. He is all of those things, but he's amazing. He was awesome, taught me a lot, and I love my time there. The city was actually much nicer than I thought. It's about an hour and a half down the road from Quad City. So playing them quite a bit was a huge rivalry. And I got to see the other side of that when I was with Quad City as well, playing against Peoria. So it was nice seeing both sides of that. But no, Peoria was an awesome experience, and I'm super, super glad I had it. Knoxville was fun too, but that was more for the off ice stuff. Knoxville is fun for off ice for sure. So
So a fun city.
fun city. I like to call it a little Nashville, a mini Nashville. So,
Okay. Cool.
but yeah, no. And then the one FHL game I was in my senior year of college, and I'd finished my senior season, and I was just waiting to graduate. And one of my buddies was on a team, and they're like, "Hey, we need a guy for a game." And it was in Elmira, New York, actually. And I went to school in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, King's College, and it was like a 2-hour drive up the road. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come play." And it was just kind of, but I knew I was going to go back and finish school. I wasn't going to leave, and with like 2 months of school left, I was like, "Yeah, I'll go get my degree, finish, and then, think about turning pro after that next following fall," which I then did with Danville.
Can you talk to us a little bit about you do some pretty cool things off ice, like in not during hockey season.
Yeah.
What did you go to school for, and what kind of business
Yeah,
do
so
you run?
I went to school. I played 4 years of Division 3 hockey. I started at SUNY Brockport in upstate New York, about 45 minutes from where I live in Rochester. And then the coach that actually recruited me and a bunch of my classmates, or my class, took a head coaching job at King's College, which is down in Wilkes-Barre, another Division 3 program. So we all kind of jump ship and followed him because we had a good relationship with him. But my first year of junior hockey, I tore my ACL and my meniscus in my knee, and I had to
Mm.
sit out 11, 12 months, which sucked. But I know, obviously, you play a sport, you run the risk of getting hurt. And at that point, I was like, I never want any other athlete to have to go through this like I did. Obviously, they're going to, but you want to minimize the risk, right? So I didn't really want to go into physical therapy or anything like that. I wanted to be more proactive than reactive. So, looking around the major catalog at all these schools I was looking at or getting recruited by, I found exercise science and kinesiology. And kinesiology is the study of sport within the body. So at SUNY Brockport and at King's College, I majored in exercise science and kinesiology with a minor in biology. And I'm a strength and conditioning coach at Next Level Strength and Conditioning in Rochester, which is also where I do my off-season training. But, we work with, an adult population, a middle school, high school. We have a whole um, pro hockey group from, NHL guys to, Fed guys and D3, D1 guys. We worked with 3 or 4 U.S. Olympian girls, which is really cool that they're on the national team. So, we skate and train with them in the summer as well, which is, I'm very fortunate to do. And being an athlete and knowing I wanted to do this for however long it was after college, I said, whenever this ride is done and over with, because unfortunately it ends for all of us, right? I said, I don't ever want to be in a cubicle or an office, right? That might be for some people, just not for me. And being, able to be in a gym with other athletes who, have the same passion that you had, even though they're a younger age, is a way for you to, even when your time as an athlete is done and over, to still live it out, right? And, help them. And when they get little victories or they sign, Division I deals or pro deals or whatever it is in whatever sport they play, that's a win for you as well. To think that you had any little part of that. So I do that. And then over the last, I've taught private lessons or skills stuff for since I was 16. So for the last, 14, 15 years. And then me and a couple of my buddies, we started our own company last summer called Hire Hockey. So quick plug. I know all my friends listening to this are going to chirp me for it. But now we're a video analysis company and a mental performance and skills company. So the biggest thing is the old adage is everybody says it's 90% mental and 10% physical, but nobody ever worries about the mental side. So we partnered with Dr. Steven Gonzalez, who is the mental performance coach for the Boston Red Sox and studied at University of Dartmouth.
Wow.
And we do all of our mental performance stuff from 11-year-old kids all the way up to Division I kids. So we work with them so much in the summer on ice and honing their skills then, where it's, when they go away to teams, obviously the focus is winning, which it should be. But sometimes the individual development, especially for, younger kids, kind of gets thrown out the back door. So being able to do video analysis with them throughout the year is a way to, continue helping their individual development as much as possible. And I know a lot of people always say, well, why would kids listen to a bunch of, Fed, SP, and East Coast guys? You guys never played in the NHL. What are you teaching them? And my argument to that is just because you are an amazing player doesn't mean you're going to be a great coach. Just because you're a great coach doesn't mean you're going to be an amazing player, right? Everybody has different skills. Everybody has, different things that they specialize in. And it's something that me and the guys that started this company are super passionate about, and we found that we're really good at it, and we've seen some of our clients have a lot of success. So why not go all out with it? Why not shoot for the stars, right? So that's something that keeps me busy throughout the year. The video analysis stuff, I do it full year round. So even while I'm playing down here in Florence, I have X amount of kids that I chat with on Zoom a couple times a month, and like I said, all the way from 10, 11 year olds to Division I kids. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty unique. I'm pretty blessed to be able to do this, and say that in the summer and even now, honestly, I work full time in hockey while playing hockey. So, and I know not everyone's that fortunate, so I'm very blessed to be able to do that.
Guys, we're going to link hirehockey.net down in the description of our video. And I wanted to add, with building a junior team and junior players, I have personally seen what kind of stress these players go through, especially when
Mhm.
you're trying to get that college commit or get to that next level, whether that's
Yep.
going to the Fed or whatever it is that you want to do. I think it's really incredible. And I almost wish I knew you a few years ago, because I know a player that I've watched how hard it was for him. He just had one of those seasons that kind of went down, and
Mhm.
he struggled. So I think it's really cool that you guys are out there doing stuff like that. And I think the average fan may not realize the
Yeah.
kind of stress that you guys go through, even up in the leagues that you're in now. So,
It's crazy too, because now with the heightened, social media's heightened everything, right? And it's always the old saying, keeping up with the Joneses. So you look at these, 11, 12-year-old kids, and it's a tough one because, they're our clients, right? They pay our bills. But at the end of the day, we're also the problem with youth hockey now because these kids are doing so much. And it's finding that fine balance between letting the kid be a kid, and if he's really, wants to pursue something, hockey, lacrosse, whatever it might be, like you're gonna have to put in that extra work to, separate yourself. And it started a lot with, teenagers, because they're going through so many changes, right? Hormonal changes, they have social life, they have outside life, school, all that stuff, deciding if they want to play juniors, deciding if they just want to play high school, deciding that, if, they're an elite player, maybe they're going to go out to the NAHL or the USHL and go right to college at 18 versus 21. So I think each kid's unique, and as a coach, right, it's our job to find out how each kid responds, or what stressors or what things that they have going on. And not to get too deep, but you never know what a kid has going on at home either, right? And you might be that third voice that they just need to vent to, that they just
Right.
need to get stuff off their chest. And if you can do that, that might help a kid clear his mind, so when he does go play, his U16 game or whatever it might be, right? And that's all he's thinking about. He's not worrying about whatever other issues he has going on at home. And similar to the stuff in the gym, if we can be any small fraction of help for these players, and it's a win for us. Because I just remember being a teenager and juniors in college and asking, why does nobody care? Like, where obviously your friends and your family care, but like within a team, it's like, why is nobody caring? And not that that was true, but that's what it felt like, right? um so to be able to maybe be a resource for a kid like that, just to be like, hey, you know what, somebody does care about my career, or somebody does care about this meaningless Tuesday night game at 8 o'clock in the middle of November, is a great outlet for kids. And if we can share or spread any of the knowledge that we've learned or wish we had when we were their age, then we're winning at that game. So we're pretty passionate about it. We're super excited about it. So I encourage anybody to go check us out. Obviously, got to give the company a plug here. So, but yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm kind of curious. You were talking about like when you were a teenager and it felt like nobody really cared and stuff. That would kind of help push and inspire you guys to kind of develop this, or was there kind of more that led into it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, nothing, obviously, everybody fights their own battles. For me, it was the easy one was fighting the stigma of you're too small to play. So how are you going to beat that stigma? There's always that, right? And I think a lot of the pressure too isn't always on the parents. It's on you, the individual. You put that pressure on yourself. So teaching kids and that it's not the end of the world if you go dash three in a game and have a bad game, right? Like obviously you don't want to and you want to correct that, but the world isn't caving down on you, right? It's going to be okay. Learn from your mistakes, learn what you did wrong and why that was, a tough game for you. Or, we talk a lot about the controllables versus the uncontrollables, like, and you're never going to blame your teammates, but maybe truthfully you did everything you could and it was just a tough bounce. That's just the bounces of those games happen, right? But I think for all of us, I can speak for myself personally. I can't speak for the other guys, but for me, that helpless feeling of, wow, so many people say I am too small. Maybe I am, and having that constant battle of believing that you're not, because it's tough when every single person is telling you, how are you supposed to believe that you're right and they're wrong when it's the majority versus the minority, right? So I think you're right. Like there's an internal perseverance and drive from us that started us. Um, and if, like I said, if some kids going through that too, maybe we can share our stories with them. And maybe they open up about some of their things. And we can teach them, hey, like if you're finding that something, just a quick example, right, you're an undersized player and you think it's a disadvantage, well, I've gone through my career and I found out how to avoid some of this, getting pinned up against the wall or getting crushed and hit. And like, why can't I want to share that with you? And or watch the undersized players in the NHL, what do they do to be successful, right? We can learn from those players as well. So I think that's a big part of it for sure.
That's awesome.
There's a question here that I actually really want to hear the answer to. Aaron, I see your question and we'll definitely get to that. But for Brown Spider Hole, that's a great name, by the way.
Yeah.
They said, quick question, Nick. Have the boys found you at the bottom of a gitch bin yet this season? If you could explain to the fans what a gitch is and then what's up with being at the
I know
bottom of the bin.
exactly who that is. Yeah, so the Gitch is like our under stuff, so like your Under Armour, your leggings, or I guess your sweaty socks that you wear under your gear that soaks up all your sweat. And I won't say who it was, but one of my years I found one of my equipment manager's sons laying in the gitch bin with all the dirty, sweaty Under Armour and gitch after one of the practices. And like I said, they'll know who they are. So that's directly where that question is coming from. No, I do not sit in the bottom of the sweaty gitch bin, and I hope that you have found yourself out of it and don't sit in there anymore as you're growing up into a young man.
I'm actually impressed that they could deal with the smell. You know, the smell of hockey players after a practice or a game is definitely different than it's heavy. So that's impressive.
It's like people say like, oh, you guys must be used to it, like you're with it all the time. And yeah, we don't really notice it, but we're also quite aware it stinks.
Yeah.
We're quite aware it stinks.
I know
So,
I can smell myself. Everybody else can
right.
smell themselves. Now you mix that all together.
Right. And shout out to, you know, all of our equipment managers, Glenn and Kyle here in PD. They do an awesome job helping us get everything, you know, prepared and stuff. And all my EQs that I've had over the year, without those guys, they're just as much, if not more, part of the team than all the players and stuff. So without them behind the scenes and, you know, staying up late nights, 2 a.m. and dealing with all the nonsense that we throw at those guys, like those guys are rock stars. So
Yeah, shout out to you guys.
mhm.
They definitely don't get enough praise.
No, not at all. There's a reason that those guys get their name on the Stanley Cup when they win too, right? They're just as part of the team.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, just being around some of the teams here, I really learned that there's so much that goes into that. It's not just changing a blade real quick, you know, in the middle of a game. There's a lot behind the scenes. So
No, and now with, you know, gear getting so, you know, more protective and complex and stuff, they have to know how to sew, they have to know how to melt and remold plastic. They have to know how to, you know, do all these crazy things like putting buckles together quickly, like you said, obviously the steel, you know, whatever little thing it might be, like goalie equipment, player equipment. I think a lot of the time we just think of EQs as changing out skates and sharpening them for players, but what happens if a goalie, you know, breaks his steel in net or one of the buckles on his pad breaks real quick? Like they got to think on their toes quickly and figure that out and be able how to rewire it or relace it back up to get them back on the ice. So with that, we always call them the Swiss Army knives of a team, and they 100% are.
you know, we haven't had any equipment managers on the podcast, so if they're interested, ask them. We'd love to have them on.
I
And
think that would be really cool just to get their perspective of,
yeah,
you know, what a pre and post game day is like or leading up and obviously, you know, it's sometimes they're not always there, you know, during the day at practice. They come in maybe later after their jobs, but you know, some teams are fortunate to, you know, have EQs there that are there all the time. But it's cool. They trust me, they hear and know more about the team than probably anybody else. They got the ears behind the scenes. They know it all and they've heard it all. So those guys, in my opinion, have some of the craziest stories you'll ever hear because
oh
they
yeah,
see it and hear it all.
ask them to come on. I'd love to hear some of those crazy stories.
Hmm. So,
Oh, absolutely.
but
Especially with like how this league is and stuff too.
right, I
A
think,
lot of stories.
and especially this league, right? But in any league, I remember hearing, you know, one equipment manager told me, and this is way back when like the Fed was starting, or even when it was like the CHL or the UHL, like way back, like we're talking like 20-25 years when I was a little kid. And some rinks have stairs that lead to the playing surface from the locker rooms, and you know, they would put like sand or fine gravel on the stairs so players are walking down and you know their blades are getting all chewed up, and all these crazy stories you hear from like the gridiron years. And you know, like you joke about it and you're like, no way that happened. Like back in the day, that stuff was true. Like it was a free for all back in the day, and the EQs were all part of it. So, but yeah, I think the fans would love to get that perspective as well, because it's something unique that you don't think about, that you know your average fan doesn't think about. You know, these guys are on the bus with us too, right? They're in the hotel with us. They're there, you know, after a big win or a tough loss, and you know, couple guys are either happy or sad in the locker room after. Who's there with them? The EQs, right? They're having those tough conversations. So yeah, I would definitely, right, I mean, you know, I know a couple EQs that can ask around, but you guys should do your due diligence and see, you know, if you can find some as well, because I think that would be a great pod to have.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Sam will definitely have to work on that this week.
Definitely. definitely. I already see one name popping up.
That's a great one. That's a great one right there.
I know he's been around. He's been with Columbus for a hot minute.
Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He takes care of the away team so well. He treats us so well whenever team I've been on, he makes sure we have everything we need and takes care of us, and just a awesome dude.
That's good to hear. It really is.
Yeah, because I remember, was it during the Trasher days? I think in the documentary they mentioned just, like you were talking about, like sand on the stairs, and they
Mhm.
used to like freeze the towels and give them like small hand cloths for their
Yeah,
showers, and
something
just
something silly like that or something crazy like that. Like it doesn't matter, but we're all competitive people, right? Like our brains are wired a little differently. So you see that and the wires cross and all you're doing is seeing red. And obviously that translates into when they come to see you maybe next time at your home rink or whatever it might be, when you're playing them on the ice. But yeah, it's,
Turn
it's,
off
it's, it's, like I said, they're all part of it. They're maybe more part of it than we are. So, but
There was
um,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, you're good. I was just gonna read Aaron's question, so you're good. Go ahead.
I gotta find it.
Okay. Well, Aaron was wondering. I think it says here you've played for many teams, primarily in the Empire division. Do you think there's a clear difference between the Empire and the Continental? And if so, what is it?
I think this year for sure. And I think this year, the big reason is you're seeing a lot of players opt to playing in the Fed rather than the, Southern Pro League, or even some, ECHL guys are dropping to play in the Fed or choosing to play in the Fed. And it's kudos to the league, right? If there's players leaving other leagues to come to your league, right? That's awesome. That's huge. That's what you want. Um, this year, like I said, this year might be tough because you have so many, high skilled, talented flying players. Like it playing at that other level, it feels like the same, if not better than, my time in the Southern Pro League. So I think my biggest difference, and again, it might be a jaded answer, is this, in the North, they might slow it down a little more and it's a little more, poised puck possession, where this conference is so fast and things happen so fast and you have to play so fast and every team is so good. And I think there's a part of it being why teams are so good. You're in the South, right? Like I came to Florence and it was South Carolina. It was 70 degrees on November 1st the other day, right? Like you can't beat that. So I think there's that draws more talent, right? And I think you also have, like it or not, the arenas are much nicer, right? It gives you that real pro hockey feel. And that's nothing against, some of these teams that have small arenas. They're dealt the hand that they have, but sometimes it might be harder to, draw interest of those, higher level players when, it might be a smaller barn, which has its advantages as well. Don't get me wrong. But I think that and the level of competition continuing to go up, whether it's, like I said, rookies or, guys coming in from other leagues, I think this conference it's a playoff game every single night. And again, maybe that's because we see Columbus and Carolina and Athens all the time, right? And those are top teams. But it feels with the crowds and just how intense every game and face-off is, legitimately feels like a playoff game every night. So that would be my biggest difference, coming down here versus playing up in the North.
And then it was Ander. I actually know the name. Uh, he had asked, what would you say is your favorite or best bus story?
Okay. This is a great one. So we were in a little different than probably what you're gonna think. We were in Baton Rouge last year when I was on Danville, and we had this old beat up bus that the, odometer like kicked out at 1,000,000 miles and it just stopped like ticking. It just stopped. Like it reached its limit. And we're driving back from Baton Rouge to Danville, and it's like a Saturday night. I think we had a 3-3 or 2-2 with them, whatever it was. And I'm riding near the back of the bus. And for those of you who don't know, in those big coach buses, even the new ones, the motor's like in the back of the bus, and there's a little like flap within like the aisleway of the bus between the seats by the bathroom where you can open it up inside the bus and check the motor to see if like anything's going wrong. And we're in the back of the bus, and obviously you're in the south, and it was early in the year. It was still October, so it was like a little warm. So we had like the overhead like emergency door hatch open, which is pretty common to do, and just to get some airflow in there. But it was like getting really hot, like weirdly hot in the bus, and it just smelled like burning plastic, like just a bad smell. And we kept telling our bus driver like, "Hey, it doesn't smell right back here. Like it just something doesn't smell right." Nope, we keep going. We're in the middle. We're just outside of Jackson, Mississippi, so honestly in the middle of nowhere. And that little hole in the aisle of the bus starts smoke coming up from the little hole in the bus, and we're like, "Hey, I think we need to pull over here. Like I think the bus is on fire." So we pull out, and in the back of the bus, how you check the engine on like a hood, like it's like two doors that just open up like this, like the two doors just like open up. And lo and behold, we open up the doors, the bussy opens up the doors, and the engine is in fact on fire, like flames spurting out of the engine. And so we pull over on the side of the highway north of Jackson, Mississippi, and I've never been in Mississippi, at like 12:30 at night. Thankfully, it was pretty warm out, but it wasn't like anywhere near like a good area. Like there was nothing around. There was nothing around. It was middle of fields, and our bus is on fire at 12:30 in the morning. And I think if I remember, we lost in overtime that night too. So the boys were all grumpy anyways, right? It was a tough night. We have a really long bus trip, and obviously, there wasn't many positives in Danville last year, so points were hard to come by. And so we all get off the bus, right? We all take our bags off the bus because we don't know, what's going on. And bus thankfully doesn't like catch on fire like the rest of it. The engine, like we're throwing, like we still had water in the water bottles, so we're like throwing the water from the water bottles on the bus, trying to like get it to cool down. And it's a Saturday night, so like it's hard to find like a bus mechanic or a tow truck or anything. It's hard to find. So fast forward, we spend the night on the side of the road on the bus. Some guy on a throughway or expressway like pulls up next to us at like I don't know who this guy is. He starts like making TikToks and just hanging out with our team. And the point of that story is it fast forward, so we get it going enough on like Sunday morning. It's like 8 a.m. now. We get it enough on going to Sunday morning. We drive like 20 miles to like some outlet mall. So at least we're like in civilization. There's a hotel if this really goes south. And this guy who was making TikToks stayed with us the whole night and followed us to the outlet mall in the hotel and started hanging out with our team, because it ended up being like a 3-day adventure, because we ended up having to get another bus come down to get us from the north because that bus was just toast. So we ended up getting stuck in like a hotel in Mississippi for like 3 days. And this crazy guy, I don't know where he was going. Clearly, he had nowhere to go because he hung out with our team for 3 days because our bus caught on fire, and like made TikToks of the whole experience. Don't know where they are. I know they're somewhere. Couldn't tell you where they are. I don't have TikTok, but that's probably my craziest bus story.
Oh man, when we're done with this podcast, I'm 100% gonna go try to track those down. So if I can find any, if I can find any, I'll let you know.
Yeah, that was a crazy one, because usually you hear the crazy stories of like, oh, somebody got like crazy drunk in the back of the bus, or whatever. But no, our bus caught on fire, and we kept driving for a little bit until there was smoke and flames coming out of it, and then it finally shut it down. So
Yeah,
that was a
I
pretty
think
fun one.
you and Joe Pace definitely have the two best bus stories we've ever heard on the show, 100%. Kind of along the same lines, can you tell us about like the funniest or best prank you either saw or were involved in or had played on you over the years?
Oh, putting me on the spot. I mean, there's been things where like guys have like moved like somebody's car, like if they left it unlocked and they had the keys in there for a second, like somebody's gonna go out and move it real quick and make the kid panic. Um, there's I'm trying to think if there was any like really good ones that stood out. I know we've had a couple. I mean, there's your generic like somebody passes out at a hotel and you stack everything on his bed and take a picture of him, like innocent fun like that. Um, I think the one good one, it was my rookie year, and we put a leaner. And for those of you who don't know a leaner, you take like the garbage can in the hotel and you fill it with ice water and you tip it on the door and you knock on the door. It's like ding dong ditch, and then they open the door and all the ice water comes like rushing on the feet of the player. And we thought that we got the wrong room, and hopefully you can see where this is going, and it ended up being our coach. So that one really kind of backfired.
I bet
Um,
he was heated.
yeah, he wasn't too happy, but luckily we were on kind of like a win streak, so like it was a little better. Like he kind of laughed it off. But the second we lost, like it was like 2 weeks later, we finally lost, and that just instantly got brought back up
Oh man.
as we were skating line. So that was probably my best one. Or like this isn't really a prank. We used to my rookie year in Danville, we had the apartments that were like 3-story apartments, and we had a really, really, really good group of guys that year, like awesome group of guys. And we would have like water balloon fights with our other teammates from like the 3rd story balcony down at those guys on the lawn. That's not really a prank, but that was something fun that we used to do quite a bit. Um, and then one of my years in Elmira, we found like a local like bar restaurant did trivia night, and all the guys would do trivia night, which kind of got a little reckless, but that was pretty fun too. But in terms of like inner room or like inner apartment pranks, like I don't know if there's one that really stands above the other, just because there's so many that have been so funny, um, that I would have to take a minute to think about it, to think which one is, honestly the best. But
Yeah.
needless to say, as I'm sure people can assume, it gets pretty reckless at the apartments with the guys. You have a bunch of 20 guys hanging out, right? You're gonna have to entertain yourself at some point. So nothing crazy like where anybody got like severely hurt or any like damage. I have no crazy stories like that. Or maybe the guy was upset for the night, but then the next morning we walked in and was like, yeah, that was kind of funny, something like
Yeah.
that. So, but
It's funny now, but
yeah,
at the
right,
time,
something like that. Like the one that always gets me is like the shoe check. And for those of you who don't know, it's you do a shoe check and you go around, you sneak around and you put butter or something on somebody's shoe, and then somebody makes a toast, and everyone goes shoe check, and you look down, and if you have something on your shoe, you got to stand up on the table wherever restaurant you're at and sing
Oh,
like a
that's good. I
song,
haven't heard that one.
which is fun. It's a pretty common one. That's a fun one. But I felt bad because this kid had like really, really nice, like tan canvas shoes, like a very expensive brand, and somebody put ketchup on it or mustard, and that just isn't coming out. And like I'm telling, these shoes were like $500, like really nice shoes. And this kid got her shoes ruined, and that one was pretty bad. Or like, I remember another one, a kid slipped on. This one guy bought like Gucci shoes, and he was one of those guys who loved it. And we had this like kid who was kind of the stinky guy on the team, and we were on the bus, and we stopped at a rest stop at like 3 a.m., just like a quick stop because we were going overnight somewhere. And the kid was kind of half awake, threw on the Gucci shoes as the stinky guy, and just walked into a bathroom that had like an overflowing toilet at one of the rest stops. And um the guy who had the shoes found out and absolutely freaked out, like lost his mind at 3 a.m. on the bus, which I also kind of get. But for us, like sitting on the back, like we were like, yeah, it's kind of funny, like chill. It's just like shoes, they're meant to get dirty on the bottom. Like it's okay. Like it's
Yeah.
not like he jammed his foot in the toilet or anything. But those are some good ones that, stick out to me. Ones that, let's say, ones I can tell, anyways.
Yes, I was
Some
gonna say
some
there's
will
always the good ones
there's
we can't hear about.
yeah, there's ones that, will always stay a secret.
definitely some has kind of popped out, and there's always allegedly thrown in there.
Yeah, allegedly is
Allegedly.
one of our favorite words over here at 10 Minute. There's been a lot
Mhm.
of allegedly over here.
Mhm.
Before we wrap up, Sam, do you have any more questions?
Who's the best cook on the team?
Best cook on the team? My girlfriend. That's a smart
Aw,
answer. That's a
good
smart.
answer.
That's a smart answer. Yeah,
That's a
that's
great answer.
politically correct. I do very much. My dad was a private, like a catering, like a personal chef, like a private chef growing up. So I was able. I'll pump my own tires. I'm a very good cook. I can cook quite well. But Nick McGill Diaz probably takes a cake. That kid can cook. That kid, our captain. I played with him in motor. The kid can cook. Like he's got a talent for it, and he loves to entertain the boys on the weekends. Like whether it be like a Sunday night football, Monday night football, like if he can cook for guys, like he's always doing it, and the kid's got a special talent. But politically correct answer is my girlfriend.
Well, shout out to her. I'm sure
Yeah.
it is a tough job cooking for all of you guys.
Yeah.
And speaking of motor, before we wrap up with Motor City, if you could tell Scott Brand, thank you so much for getting us in touch with you to set
Yeah.
up the episode. We love Scott down in Columbus. I know he's loved everywhere he goes. He's
Yep.
sassy and funny. So what do you enjoy most about Scott being around?
Well, we don't call him Scott, we call him Mr. Hockey Brand, because that's his
Yes.
Instagram or Facebook handle. We go, hey, hello, Mr. Hockey Brand. No, he's awesome. He's I didn't get to see him, or we didn't get to see him, the motor guys, as much in motor. He was kind of more behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
truthfully, I never really got to, know him personality wise much in motor, but he's very in the mix here in Florence. Like he's, we're very fortunate. We have a lot of like restaurants and places that kind of hook us up down here. So we're always getting like, BOGO like gift cards, or, a little free lunch here, a little free lunch there. And he's the one kind of coming to the locker room and, putting it in each of our stalls pre or post practice. So you kind of get in the mix with him a little bit. And obviously when you have, an office member on the team, you don't originally want to kind of banter with them like you would banter with one of your teammates. Obviously, you want to show a bit of respect until they they lead the charge and banter back at you. So he'll walk in the room, and the boys will just give it to him right away.
Yeah.
So that's been pretty cool, and he just gives it right back. Like he was out on the ice skating the other day. Like we had dead ice, and he was just out there skating. So the boys all get their phones out and have video of Scott just buzzing around on the ice. But no, he's awesome. He gets it, and he's truthfully like a players first mentality, GM, and he's awesome. He's been around it a long time. He's had success at a lot of places.
Yes.
And I think when you have success at a lot of places, obviously it goes like a pyramid, the top down. And I think it's infectious, and it spreads to, the coaching staff, to the players, to everybody else when, you have somebody up top has that winning regime. But I will
Sure.
tell Scott you guys said hello. No, he's awesome.
Yeah,
So
yeah, please do. We absolutely love Scott. And like I said, we miss him down in Columbus. But before we wrap up, if your fans are watching, shout out to all you PDs. What do you have anything you'd like to say to them?
yeah, you guys have been awesome so far. The flow show, as we call it, Florence Center, has been buzzing every single home game, and it continues to get louder. We are going to get new lights. We are going to get a jumbotron, right? Those things are coming. So, keep supporting us, and we're excited for the rest of this first half, continuing into the second half, and a lot of big things I think can be expected out of the IceCats here.
All right.
So
well,
thank you,
let's-
fans.
One last question.
Yep.
You're a New Yorker. Pineapple on pizza?
Yes, yes.
Blue cheese with wings, no ranch. Blue cheese with wings automatically. There's a time and a place. Now and then, sure, but it's never gonna be my go-to or favorite. But I'm not gonna freak out if somebody doesn't have it, or somebody has it on their pizza. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so, hopefully we'll get inside scoop tells me lights will be installed in the next 2 weeks. So wink, wink.
Oh, hear that, PD? We'll have to put the word out. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. You've been terrific to interview. I want to wish you the best of luck for your
Thank you.
series this weekend and for the rest of the season. And like I said, we'll link higherhockey.net down in the description, and maybe have you back on in the future.
Awesome. No, this has been awesome. And IceCats are rolling right now. So keep supporting, and thank you guys.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys. Thank you.
Bye.